In criminal law, kidnapping is the abduction or unlawful transportation of a person, usually to hold the person against his or her will. This may be done for ransom or in furtherance of another crime, or in connection with a child custody dispute. Kidnapping by jurisdiction. Canada. Kidnapping that does not result in a homicide is a hybrid offense that comes with a maximum possible penalty of life imprisonment. A murder that results from kidnapping is classified as first degree, with a sentence of life imprisonment that results from conviction. Netherlands. Article 282 prohibits hostage. Part 1 allows sentencing kidnappers to maximum imprisonment of 8 years or a fine of the 5th category. Part 2 allows maximum imprisonment of 9 years or a fine of the 5th category if there are serious injuries. Part 3 allows maximum imprisonment of 12 years or a fine of the 5th category if the victim has been killed. Part 4 allows sentencing people that collaborate with kidnapping. Part 1, 2 and 3 will apply also to them. United Kingdom, England and Wales. Kidnapping is an offence under the common law of England and Wales. In RVD, Lord Brandon said, first, the nature of the offence is an attack on, and infringement of, the personal liberty of an individual. Secondly, the offence contains 4 ingredients as follows: the taking or carrying away of one person by another, by force or fraud, without the consent of the person so taken or carried away, and without lawful excuse. The following cases are relevant: RV Reed QB 299, 3 WLR 395, 2 ALR 1350, 56 CR APAR 703, CRIM LR 553, CA, RV Wellard 1 WLR 921, 3 ALR 161, 67 CR APAR 360, CA, RV Court TWCA CRIM 2149, 3 WLR 1300, 1 CR APAR 18, CA, RV Hendy Frigad EWCA CRIM 1236, 3 WLR 488. The Times, May 30, 2007. Kidnapping of children. In all cases where it is alleged that a child has been kidnapped, it is the absence of the consent of the child which is material. This is the case regardless of the age of the child. A very small child will not have the understanding or intelligence to consent. This means that absence of consent will be a necessary inference from the age of the child. It is a question of fact for the jury whether an older child has sufficient understanding and intelligence to consent. Lord Brandon said, "I should not expect a jury to find at all frequently that a child under 14 had sufficient understanding and intelligence to give its consent. If the child did consent to being taken or carried away, the fact that the person having custody or care and control of the child did not consent to the child being taken or carried away is immaterial. If, on the other hand, the child did not consent, the consent of the person having custody or care and control of the child may support a defense of lawful excuse." Charging child abduction and kidnapping in the same indictment. See RVC 2FLR 252, FAM Law 522, CA. Restriction on prosecution. No prosecution may be instituted, except by or with the consent of the Director of Public Prosecutions, for an offensive kidnapping if it was committed against a child under the age of 16 and by a person connected with the child, within the meaning of Section 1 of the Child Abduction Act 1984. Mode of trial. Kidnapping is an indictable-only offense. Sentence. Kidnapping is punishable with imprisonment or fine at the discretion of the court. There is no limit on the fine of the term of imprisonment that may be imposed provided the sentence is not inordinate. See R.V. Spence and Thomas, 5 CR APAR 413, Crim LR 372, CA. Crown Prosecution Service Sentencing Manual. CPS guidance. C. Prosecuting cases of child abuse. Offenses against the person. It invariably includes committing false imprisonment, which is the common law offense of intentionally or recklessly detaining the victim without lawful authority. The use of force to take and detain will also be regarded as an assault, and other related offenses may also be committed before, during, or after the detention. A parent should only be prosecuted for kidnapping his own child in exceptional cases, where the conduct of the parent concerned is so bad that an ordinary right-thinking person would immediately and without hesitation regard it as criminal in nature. United States law. In the United States follows from English common law. Following the highly publicized 1932 Lindbergh kidnapping, Congress passed the Federal Kidnapping Act, which authorized the FBI to investigate kidnapping at a time when the Bureau was expanding in size and authority. The fact that a kidnapped victim may have been taken across state lines brings the crime within the ambit of federal criminal law. Most states recognize different types of kidnapping and punish accordingly. E.g., New York bases its definition of first-degree kidnapping on the duration and purpose. There are several deterrents to kidnapping in the United States of America. Among these are the extreme logistical challenges involved in successfully exchanging the money for the return of the victim without being apprehended, a surveil, harsh punishment. Convicted kidnappers face lengthy prison terms. If a victim is brought across state lines, federal charges can be laid as well. Good cooperation and information sharing between law enforcement agencies, and tools for spreading information to the public. One notorious failed example of kidnap for ransom was the 1976 Chowchilla bus kidnapping, in which 26 children were abducted with the intention of bringing in a $5 million ransom. The children and driver escaped from an underground van without the aid of law enforcement. According to the Department of Justice, kidnapping makes up 2% of all reported violent crimes against juveniles. For the 1990s on, a gang operating in New York City and New Jersey was involved in the kidnapping and torture of Jewish husbands for the purpose of forcing them to grant religious divorces to the wives. They were finally apprehended on October 9, 2013, in connection with the 2013 New York divorce torture plot, according to a 2003 domestic violence report in Colorado. Out of a survey of 189 incidents, most people are taken from the homes or residence by a present or former spouse or significant other. They are usually taken by force, not by weapon, and usually the victims are not injured when they are free. In 2009, Phoenix, Arizona reported over 300 cases of kidnapping, although subsequent investigation found that the Phoenix police falsified data. Phoenix kidnappings, uncovering the truth. If true, this would have been the highest rate of any U.S. city and second in the world only to Mexico City. A rise in kidnappings in the southwestern United States in general has been attributed to misclassification by local police, lack of a unified standard, desire for federal grants, or the Mexican drug war. In 2010, the United States was ranked 6th in the world for kidnapping for ransom, according to the available statistics. Named forms. Bride kidnapping is a term often applied loosely, to include any bride abducted against the will of her parents. Even if she is willing to marry the abductor, it still is traditional amongst certain nomadic peoples of Central Asia. It has seen a resurgence in Kyrgyzstan since the fall of the Soviet Union and the subsequent erosion of women's rights. Express kidnapping is a method of abduction used in some countries, mainly from Latin America, where a small ransom that a company her family can easily pay is demanded. Tiger kidnapping is taking a hostage to make a loved one or a associate of the victim does something, e.g. a child is taken hostage to force the shopkeeper to open the safe. The term originates from the usually long preceding observation, like a tiger does on the prowl. Statistics. Kidnapping for ransom is a common occurrence in various parts of the world today, and certain cities and countries are often described as the kidnapping capital of the world. As of 2007, that title belongs to Iraq, with possibly 1,500 foreigners kidnapped. In 2004, it was Mexico, and in 2001, it was Colombia. Statistics are harder to come by. Reports suggest a world total of 12,500 minus 25,500 per year, with 3,600 per year in Colombia and 3,000 per year in Mexico around the year 2000. However, by 2006, the number of kidnappings in Colombia had declined to 687, and it continues to decline. Mexican numbers are hard to confirm because of fears of police involvement in kidnapping. Kidnapping seems to flourish particularly in fragile states and conflict countries, as politically motivated militias, organized crime and the drugs mafia fill the vacuum left by government. In 2009, the Los Angeles Times named Phoenix, Arizona as America's kidnapping capital, reporting that every year hundreds of ransom kidnappings occur there, virtually all within the underworld associated with human and drug smuggling from Mexico, and often done as a way of collecting unpaid debts. However, a later audit by the U.S. Department of Justice Inspector General found only 59 federally reportable kidnappings in 2008, compared to the over 300 claimed on grant applications. During the year 1999 in the United States, 203,900 children were reported as the victims of family abductions and 58,200 of non-family abductions. However, only 115 were the result of stereotypical kidnaps. In the past, and presently in some parts of the world, kidnapping is a common means used to obtain slaves and money through ransom. In less recent times, kidnapping in the form of shanghaiing men was used to supply merchant ships in the 19th century with sailors, whom the law considered unfree labor. Kidnapping on the high seas in connection with piracy has been increasing. It was reported that 661 crew members were taken hostage and 12 kidnapped in the first 9 months of 2009. Criminal gangs are estimated to make up to $500 million a year in ransom payments from kidnapping. Kidnapping has been identified as one source by which terrorist organizations have been known to obtain funding. The Perry, Lichtenwald and Mackenzie article identified tiger kidnapping as a specific method used by either the real Irish Republican Army or Continuity Irish Republican Army, in which a kidnapped family member is used to force someone to steal from their employer. Grammar. In American English, it is possible to spell the editing forms of the verb to kidnap with only one P, but usually the forms with PP are used in U.S. texts. The same is true for the noun kidnapper.